The woman who sang about love died in a war. Riverside, California. January 20th, 2012, 5:30 a.m. Etta James took her last breath in her home. She was 73 years old. Her husband, Artis Mills, was there. Her sons, Donto and Sametto, were there, but they weren't united in grief. They were united in anger, because for the last 3 years, while Etta James slowly died from Alzheimer's disease and leukemia, her 2 biological sons and her husband had been locked in a vicious legal battle. Over money, over control, over who had the right to make decisions for a woman who could no longer speak. The woman who sang "At Last," the most romantic song in American history, died in the middle of a family war. Have you ever wondered? What happens when the voice that sang about eternal love can't remember the words? When a mother's sons fight over her while she's still alive? When Alzheimer's doesn't just steal memory, it exposes every crack in a family? Today, I'm going to tell you a story about the greatest voice in blues history and the ugliest family fight in music. About a woman born into poverty who became a legend. About 2 sons who sued their stepfather while their mother was dying. And about how Alzheimer's doesn't just destroy the person, it destroys everyone around them. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. January 20th, 2012. Etta James was gone. The obituaries called her a legend, an icon, the voice of a generation. But behind closed doors, her family was at war. Her sons, Donto and Sametto James, fought with her husband, Artis Mills, over her $1 million estate, medical decisions, funeral arrangements, rights to her music royalties. The woman who sang "At Last" couldn't rest at last, because her family couldn't stop fighting. But the real tragedy started much earlier, in 2008, when Etta's brilliant mind began to fade, and the story really begins in 1938. In Los Angeles. Gilishmi, from Jamesetta to Etta, a life of survival. The Girl with No Father, January 25, 1938, Los Angeles, California. Jamesetta Hawkins was born. Her mother, Dorothy Hawkins. 14 years old, unmarried, poor, her father unknown. Dorothy claimed it was pool player Rudolph Minnesota Fats Wanderone. He denied it. DNA test never done. Jamesetta grew up never knowing her father, but what they didn't know yet, Dorothy couldn't raise her. Too young, too poor, too troubled. Jamesetta was raised by foster parents, Lulu and Jesse Rogers in the Watts neighborhood of LA. They were kind. They gave her stability. But at age 5, Dorothy took Jamesetta back, moved her to San Francisco. The instability began. Dorothy was a hustler, worked the streets, brought men home. Young Jamesetta saw things no child should see. This is exactly where everything changed. 1954. Jamesetta found escape in church, St. Paul Baptist Church in South Central, LA, the choir. At age 5, she sang her first solo. The entire church stopped. That voice, deep, powerful, raw, from a 5-year-old. The choir director said, "That child has the voice of God and the devil, fighting inside her." It was true. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. 1955, age 12, Jamesetta's voice was already legendary in her neighborhood. She formed a girl group, the Creolettes, later the Peaches. They sang doo-wop, R&B, blues. Jamesetta was 16. The Peaches performed at a talent show. In the audience, Johnny Otis, famous bandleader and talent scout. After the show, Johnny approached. "Girl, what's your name?" "Jamesetta Hawkins." "Johnny, but that's too long." "From now on, you're Etta James." Just like that, Jamesetta became Etta. But what's really shocking, age 17, Etta recorded her first hit, The Wallflower, Roll With Me, Henry. It was suggestive, sexy, raw. Radio stations banned it as too explicit, but it sold anyway. Where one on R&B charts, Etta. James, age 17, was suddenly famous, and fame came with danger. Heroin, Talent, and Survival, 1950s-1960s. Etta James became one of the greatest voices in American music, but she also became a heroin addict. You won't believe this, but Etta later said, "I started using heroin at 18. Someone in the music business introduced me. Said it would help me perform better. It didn't help. It destroyed." For 15 years, Etta was addicted to heroin. She'd perform, get high, perform, get high, cycle of destruction. But her voice never suffered, even high. Etta could sing like an angel with the soul of the devil. This is exactly where everything changed. 1960, Etta signed with Chess Records in Chicago. Leonard Chess, the founder, believed in her. "Etta, you're going to be the greatest singer we ever had. But you need to get clean." Etta tried, failed, tried again, failed again, but she kept recording, hit after hit. 1960, All I Could Do Was Cry. 1961, At Last. 1962, Something's Got a Hold on Me. 1963, Pushover. 1969, Wait a Minute. Don't miss this detail. At Last, recorded in 1960, released in 1961, Etta was 23 years old. Still using heroin. The song is about eternal love. Finding your soulmate. At last, my love has come along. Etta sang it beautifully, achingly, like she believed every word. But in real life, Etta's love life was chaos. What you're seeing now is nothing. 1960s. Etta had relationships with multiple men. She met Artis Mills, a street hustler turned her manager. Artis was tough, controlling, but he loved Etta, and she loved him. They married in 1969. She was 31. He was her stability, but they never legally married. Common law. This detail would matter later. But what's really shocking, 1960s, 1970s, Etta had 2 sons. Donto James, born 1968, father unknown, Etta said it was one of several men. Sametto James, born 1976. Father unknown, possibly different father than Donto. Etta was an amazing singer. But motherhood? Complicated. She was often high, often on tour, often absent. Artis helped raise the boys, became their father figure. But Donto and Sametto always felt the absence. The drugs, the chaos. Redemption, 1974-1973. Etta James was 35. Her heroin addiction had destroyed her career. She couldn't get gigs, couldn't pay bills, couldn't function. She checked into rehab, Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital. For 17 months, she fought to get clean. This is exactly where everything changed. 1974. Etta emerged from rehab, clean, focused. "I'm going to get my career back. I'm going to be the greatest again," and she did. 1970s, 1980s. Etta's comeback, toured constantly, recorded new albums, won back respect, became a legend. Again, you haven't seen the biggest surprise. Yet, 1988, Etta was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 1989, she won her first Grammy Award, Best Jazz Vocal Performance. 1 Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Etta James, the girl from Watts with no father and a heroin addiction, became one of the greatest voices in American history. She'd survived. She'd won. But what's really shocking, behind the public success, family tensions simmered. Donto and Sametto, now adults, had complicated relationships with Etta and Artis. They loved their mother, but they resented her years of addiction, Artis's control over her career. Feeling like outsiders in her life, Artis controlled Etta's money, her schedule, her decisions. The boys felt shut out, but as long as Etta was healthy, she could mediate, keep peace. Then in 2008, everything changed. 2008. The diagnosis, 2008. Etta was 70, still performing, still touring, But something was wrong. She'd forget lyrics to songs she'd sung for 50 years. She'd repeat stories, get confused about where she was. Artis noticed. "Etta, baby, you're not yourself." "I'm just tired. I'm getting old." But it wasn't just age. This is exactly where everything changed. Doctors ran tests. MRI, cognitive assessments, diagnosis, Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Moderate stage, progressing. The doctor explained, "Ms. James, your memory will continue to decline. Eventually, you won't be able to perform, won't be able to care for yourself." Etta took it stoically. "How long?" "Hard to say. Maybe 2 to 5 years? Wait a minute, don't miss this detail." Etta made a decision. She'd keep performing as long as she could, 2008, 2009. Etta continued touring, but it got harder. She'd forget lyrics. Artists would feed them to her from the side of the stage. She'd get confused about what city she was in. Sometimes she'd start a song, stop halfway through. I can't remember the words." The audience would cry. Not because it was bad, because it was heartbreaking. But what's really shocking? 2009, Etta's health deteriorated further. Not just Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed with leukemia, blood cancer, and she needed a gastric bypass surgery for obesity. She weighed over 400 pounds at her peak. The combination was deadly. Alzheimer's attacking her brain, leukemia attacking her blood, obesity stressing her organs. Doctors, she needs full-time care. Artis brought her home to Riverside, California, became her full-time caregiver. The war begins. 2010. Etta was declining rapidly. She could barely speak, couldn't recognize people sometimes. Needed 24-hour care. Artis hired nurses, managed her care, made all decisions. Donto and Sametto wanted to be involved, visit their mother, help with decisions. Artis said no. This is exactly where everything changed. Donto and Sametto claimed Artis was isolating Etta from her sons. Artis was mismanaging her money. Artis was making medical decisions without consulting them. Artis claimed the boys only cared about money. The boys hadn't been involved. In years, he was Etta's husband and legal caregiver. The legal battle began. You won't believe this, but December 2010, Donto James filed a lawsuit, petition for conservatorship of Etta James. His argument: Artis Mills is not legally married to my mother. He's mismanaging her $1 million estate. We, her biological sons, should have conservatorship. Artis's response through lawyers: I've been with Etta for 42 years. I'm her common-law husband. The boys abandoned her during her drug years. Now they want her money. The case went to court. What you're seeing now is nothing. The courtroom battle was ugly. Donto's testimony: my mother doesn't recognize us anymore. Artis won't let us see her. We just want to make sure she's cared for properly. Artis's testimony: I've been caring for Etta for 40+ years. I cleaned up her vomit when she was high. I held her when she was sick. Where were these boys? Now she's dying, and they want control of her money? The judge's dilemma: Artis had been Etta's partner for decades, but they weren't legally married. Donto and Sametto were her biological sons but had complicated relationships with her. Etta couldn't speak for herself. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. January 2011. The judge ruled conservatorship remains with Artis Mills, but Donto and Sametto are granted visitation rights, a partial victory for both sides. But the war wasn't over. The public spectacle. 2011 Etta James was dying. Everyone knew it. Alzheimer's advanced. Leukemia spreading. Weight loss down to 120 pounds. She was barely conscious. Couldn't speak. Couldn't recognize anyone. But the family war went public. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. March 2011. Donto James gave an interview to a tabloid. My mother is being held prisoner by Artis. We can't see her. We can't talk to her. She's dying and we're being kept away. Artis responded through his lawyer. This is about money. Pure and simple. Etta's sons want her estate. I want her to die with dignity. The public was divided. Team Donto. Those are her sons. They have a right to see their mother. Team Artis. He's been with her for 40 years. He's earned the right to make decisions. But what's really shocking, May 2011. Another lawsuit, this time about medical treatment. Donto and Sametto wanted Etta to receive aggressive leukemia treatment. Artis wanted hospice care. She's suffering. Let her go peacefully. The judge sided with Artis. Given her advanced Alzheimer's and leukemia, aggressive treatment would only prolong suffering. Donto was furious. They're letting my mother die. Artis's response, she's dying anyway. I'm trying to let her die with dignity. Chapter 7. The Final Months. 2011-2012 late, 2011. Etta was in and out of consciousness. The legal battles had drained everyone, but behind the ugliness, there were moments of grace. You won't believe this, but November 2011. Donto and Sametto were finally allowed extended visits with Etta. They'd sit beside her bed, hold her hand, she couldn't feel it, talk to her, she couldn't respond. Play her music. Did she hear it? No one knew. Donto later said, I'd play At Last for her. I don't know if she recognized it, but I'd like to think some part of her remembered. This is exactly where everything changed. December 2011. Etta stopped eating, stopped drinking. Her body was shutting down. Doctors. Days, maybe a week. Artis called Donto and Sametto. If you want to say goodbye, come now. They came. What you're seeing now is nothing. January 2012. Etta's breathing became labored. Artis, Donto, and Sametto maintained a vigil. United in grief, even if divided in everything else, they played her music softly. At last. Sunday kind of love. I'd rather go blind. Did Etta hear? No one knows, but on January 20th, 2012, at 5:30 a.m., Etta James took her last breath. The voice that sang at last fell silent at last. January 20th, 2012, at last. Etta James died at home in Riverside, California. Age 73. Causes: complications from leukemia, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and kidney failure. Her husband, Artis, was beside her. Her sons, Donto and Sametto, were there. In her final moment, the family war paused. Just for a moment. When the door opened, what they saw, Etta James, the woman with the voice of God and the devil. Now silent, no more singing, no more fighting, no more memory. Just peace. The voice that outlived the woman. What killed Etta James? Official: complications from leukemia, Alzheimer's disease, and kidney failure. Real: her body, ravaged by years of heroin addiction, obesity, cancer, and dementia, finally gave out. But her voice lives forever. The family war. Aftermath: after Etta died, the fighting didn't stop immediately. The estate. Estimated $1 million music royalties continue, especially At Last. Legal disputes over who gets what eventually settled. Artis Mills received a portion as common-law spouse. Donto and Sametto received portions as biological sons' lawyers received a significant cut. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. 2012 Donto. James gave an interview after his mother's death. I regret the fighting. I wish we'd spent less time in court and more time with her. But Artis made that impossible. Artis Mills responded, I have no regrets. I protected Etta until the end. That's what love is. Who was right? Maybe both. It may be neither. The funeral. January 28, 2012, Greater Bethany Community Church, Gardena, California. Over 2,500 people attended. Performances: Stevie Wonder sang Lately, Christina Aguilera sang At Last. Etta's signature song. Eulogy highlights Reverend Al Sharpton spoke about Etta's impact on civil rights. Her sons spoke briefly. Emotional. Brief. Artis didn't speak publicly. Etta was buried at Inglewood Park Cemetery, California. Headstone. Etta James At Last. At Last. The song that defined her at last was recorded in 1960. Etta was 23. It became the most popular wedding song in America, covered by hundreds of artists featured in countless films. Performed at Barack Obama's 2009 inauguration, Beyoncé sang it. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. 2009 Beyoncé performed At Last at President Obama's inauguration. Etta James was watching on TV, still cognitively aware at that point. Later, Etta made controversial comments. "That girl has no business singing my song." The media exploded. Etta James attacks Beyoncé. Etta later clarified. "I was joking, sort of. But that's my song. It was. And it always will be." What we learned from Etta James 1. Alzheimer's exposes every family crack. If there were tensions before, Etta, Artis, sons, Alzheimer's made them explosive. Disease reveals character. Legal marriage matters. Artis and Etta were together 42 years but never legally married. This created legal chaos. Don't let this happen to you. Conservatorship battles are hell. Donto versus Artis. Both claimed to love Etta. Both fought over control. The only loser, Etta, for 4. Addiction scars last forever. Etta got clean in 1974, but the damage to her body, to her relationships with her sons, never fully healed. Your voice can outlive you. Etta's been dead since 2012, but At Last still plays at weddings. Her voice is immortal. The complicated mother Donto and Sametto gave interviews years later about their mother. Donto: "I loved my mother, but she was complicated. The drugs, the absences. Artis: I spent my whole life trying to have a relationship with her. And just when we were getting there, Alzheimer's took her." Sametto: "My mom had the voice of an angel, but her life was messy. I wish things had been different. I wish she'd been more present. But I understand. She was fighting her own demons. What you're seeing now is nothing." Etta herself knew she wasn't a perfect mother. In her autobiography, Rage to Survive, 1995, she wrote, "I wasn't Mother of the Year. I was high a lot. I was on the road a lot. My boys paid the price. I can't change that. I can only hope they know I loved them. In my way." Today, the legacy At Last still plays. Every day, somewhere in the world, weddings, movies, TV shows, commercials. New generations discover Etta James. Who's that singer? That voice is incredible. That's Etta James, blues legend, but they don't know about the heroin, the Alzheimer's, the family war, the ugly conservatorship battle. They just know the voice, and maybe that's okay, because Etta James taught us, even if your life is messy, even if your family fights over you, even if Alzheimer's steals your mind, your art survives. Your voice survives. Rest in power, Etta. At Last. Subscribe to Nursing Home. This was Etta James's story. Survival, addiction, genius, war. Subscribe to Nursing Home channel. Because every voice eventually falls silent, but some voices echo forever. Which legend's final chapter do you want next? Because when the singing stops, what remains? Etta James taught us the music and the mess.